The Lyrian Confederacy communication network hummed with an unprecedented level of anxiety. Quantum relay stations typically processed billions of messages with cold, mathematical precision, but today was different. Today, raw emotion leaked through the carefully constructed communication matrices, fear, desperation, and a primal sense of impending doom. Nexus Prime, the crown jewel of Lyrian colonial expansion, was under siege. The Void Swarm had arrived without warning, a biomechanical nightmare that consumed entire planetary ecosystems with terrifying efficiency. Each transmission revealed another layer of horror. Entire cities transformed into biomechanical infrastructure, populations reduced to living components of a collective intelligence beyond comprehension. Ambassador Krillak studied the incoming data streams with increasing dread. His species had encountered numerous existential threats throughout their galactic history, but the Void Swarm represented something entirely different. This was not a conventional invasion. This was systematic consumption, a process that left nothing behind except raw materials integrated into the swarm's ever-expanding consciousness. The diplomatic archives told a grim story. 17 civilizations had sent similar distress signals in the past century. 16 had been completely eradicated, their entire technological and biological existence absorbed into the Void Swarm. The 17th had survived only through a desperate act of planetary sterilization, turning their world into a radioactive tomb to prevent complete assimilation. Nexus Prime was more than just another colony. It represented centuries of Lyrian achievement, intricate ecological engineering, advanced research facilities, and cultural repositories that captured the essence of an entire civilization. If the Void Swarm completed its consumption cycle, everything would be lost. The transmission protocols were breaking down. Emotional cascades leaked through the quantum communication channels, raw data intermixing with pure terror. Each burst carried holographic representations of destruction that pushed the boundaries of comprehension. Cities transformed into living biomechanical structures. Defense systems repurposed. Populations converted into component parts of a horrifying collective intelligence. Most advanced galactic civilizations would approach such a transmission with calculated detachment. They would run complex risk assessments, ultimately determining that the cost of intervention was too high. A single colony was an acceptable statistical loss if it prevented broader conflict. But the Lyrian Confederacy had to try. Ambassador Krillak's manipulators trembled as he reviewed the transmission logs. The communication network was a delicate web of quantum entanglement and diplomatic protocols. Precisely the type of infrastructure the Void Swarm targeted and consumed with terrifying efficiency. Their records of humanity were minimal and dismissive. Humans were considered a primitive species from a hellishly dangerous planet, a world of extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres, constant geological instability, and predators that would obliterate most species within generations. They were viewed as violent, chaotic, barely worthy of diplomatic acknowledgement. The distress signal was more a desperate last resort than a genuine hope for rescue. The vast galactic communication network treated the human signal pathway as a cosmic afterthought, a barely registered blip in the intricate web of interstellar communication. No one expected anything from the small, chaotic species confined to a single solar system. No one except the humans themselves. As the transmission continued its desperate journey across the stars, something unexpected began to happen. A response was forming, distant, yet unmistakable. Humanity was listening. The first human response arrived with a precision that defied galactic expectations. Where most spacefaring civilizations communicated through elaborate diplomatic channels, humanity's approach was direct, almost casual in its efficiency. The Terran Expeditionary Fleet's Vanguard Group materialized at the edge of the Nexus Prime system with no fanfare. Their ships were unlike anything the Lyrian observation teams had ever witnessed. These were not the sleek, elegant vessels typical of advanced civilizations. Instead, they resembled massive angular fortresses, each ship a testament to pure functional design that prioritized survival over aesthetic considerations. Captain Aria Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, her team a carefully curated collection of humanity's most adaptable individuals. Deep-sea researchers worked alongside Arctic survival experts. Volcanic zone engineers shared communication stations with military personnel who had trained in the most unforgiving environments Earth could produce. The ship's internal systems were a marvel of adaptive technology, where most species designed fixed-purpose technologies. Human systems were living, breathing networks of constant adaptation. Quantum processing units worked in concert with biological interface modules, creating a technological ecosystem that could respond to threats in microseconds. Lyrian long-range sensors struggled to comprehend the human fleet's configuration. Traditional scan protocols revealed nothing predictable. Each human vessel seemed to exist in a state of constant flux, structural configurations shifting, energy signatures dancing across spectrums that defied conventional understanding. Void swarm detected. Captain Rodriguez's communication burst was clinical, almost bored. Containment and elimination protocols initiating. The Lyrian communication specialists were stunned. This was not a request for additional information. This was not a diplomatic overture. This was a declaration of intent, delivered with the same matter-of-fact tone one might use to announce a routine maintenance schedule. Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's tactical team represented the pinnacle of human adaptability. While most species approached combat with rigid strategic frameworks, the human team treated the incoming threat like a complex, dynamic puzzle. Their tactical interfaces were a blend of predictive algorithms, real-time environmental analysis, and what could only be described as intuitive problem-solving. Historical records from Earth played a crucial role in their approach. Humanity had emerged from a planet that seemed designed to kill its inhabitants. Extreme gravity, toxic atmospheric conditions, geological instability, and an ecosystem filled with predators that made most species' survival scenarios look like pleasant vacations. These were the crucible that forged human adaptability. The Lyrian observation teams watched in collective disbelief as the human fleet began its approach. Traditional galactic combat doctrines suggested defensive formations, careful strategic positioning. The human fleet moved differently. It was less a military formation and more a living, breathing organism, each vessel moving with an independence that suggested a collective intelligence beyond standard technological capabilities. Communication intercepts revealed something even more surprising. The human crews were not filled with the intense, focused energy of a military engagement. Their communication channels carried casual conversations, occasional jokes, and a sense of professional calm that bordered on indifference. "Looks like another Tuesday," Lieutenant Commander Chen remarked, reviewing preliminary threat assessments that would have sent most species into a panic. As the Terran Expeditionary Fleet approached the Void Swarm's outer consumption boundary, the Lyrian observers realized something profound. This was not just a rescue mission. This was humanity demonstrating its fundamental nature. A species that did not just survive challenges but transformed them into opportunities for growth and understanding. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The first contact between the human fleet and the Void Swarm defied every predictive model in the Lyrian computational archives. Where most species would approach with caution, the human vessels moved with a combination of raw power and surgical precision that seemed to rewrite the fundamental rules of space combat. Initial Void Swarm attack waves were designed to overwhelm through biological adaptability. Their standard approach had decimated countless civilizations, a strategy of continuous mutation and rapid assimilation that turned defenders into components of the collective organism. Against the human fleet, this strategy proved catastrophically ineffective. Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's tactical team operated with a fluidity that bordered on prescience. Their adaptive response systems processed incoming threat data faster than the Void Swarm could modify its attack vectors. Each incoming biomechanical unit was analyzed, cataloged, and neutralized within microseconds. The human ships moved like living entities, Traditional space combat doctrines emphasized rigid formations and predictable engagement patterns. The Terran fleet treated the battlefield as a three-dimensional chess match, with each vessel capable of independent decision-making that suggested a collective intelligence beyond standard technological capabilities. Dr. Elena Okoro, the mission's xenobiological lead, monitored the engagement from a specialized analysis station. Her team had spent years studying exotic biological systems, and the Void Swarm represented the ultimate challenge. Where most species would see an incomprehensible threat, she saw a complex biological system with inherent weaknesses. Their communication network is hierarchical, but with significant redundancy, she explained to her team, her voice calm despite the intense battle surrounding them. Each biomechanical unit maintains a quantum entanglement link. Disrupt that link, and we can isolate individual components. The human technological approach was fundamentally different from other galactic civilizations. Most species develop technologies with specific, limited purposes. Humanity created adaptive systems that could transform themselves in real time. The ship's defensive and offensive capabilities shifted moment by moment, anticipating and countering the Void Swarm's attacks before they could fully materialize. Captain Aria Rodriguez watched the engagement with a detached professionalism that would have unsettled most alien observers. To her, this was simply another problem to be solved. Complex, but not insurmountable. Quantum Adaptive Response System at 97% efficiency, her AI assistant reported. The bridge crew responded with minimal acknowledgement, as if discussing a routine maintenance check. The Void Swarm's initial assault began to fragment. Human countermeasures weren't just defensive. They were actively reprogramming the biomechanical units, turning the swarm's adaptive capabilities against itself. Individual components began to disconnect from the collective intelligence, becoming isolated and vulnerable. Lyrian observation teams struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. Their most advanced computational models couldn't predict the human fleet's movement patterns. It was as if the ships were thinking, adapting, evolving in real time. One Lyrian communication specialist turned to her supervisor, her voice a mixture of terror and reluctant admiration. "They're not just fighting," she said. "They're learning." The battle became less about military engagement and more about a fundamental clash of technological philosophies. The Void Swarm represented a collective intelligence that consumed and assimilated. Humanity represented something entirely different, a species that could adapt, transform, and ultimately overcome. As the first engagement phase concluded, the human fleet had done more than simply defend. They had begun to unravel the fundamental structure of the Void Swarm's collective intelligence. The Deathworlders were just getting started. Nexus Prime was a world of intricate ecological engineering, a testament to Lyrian technological achievement. When the human ground teams landed, the surviving Lyrian population expected to witness a massacre. Instead, they observed a methodical, almost surgical approach to planetary defense that redefined their understanding of combat. Dr. Elena Okoro led the ground invasion with the precision of a research expedition rather than a military operation. Her team represented the pinnacle of human interdisciplinary expertise: ecological engineers, xenobiologists, environmental specialists, and tactical response experts who moved with a coordinated fluidity that seemed almost supernatural. The planetary defense strategy was nothing like traditional military interventions. Where most species would deploy massive firepower, the human teams began with comprehensive environmental analysis. Portable scanning systems created real-time three-dimensional maps of the Void Swarm's biological infrastructure, identifying critical network points with microscopic precision. "It's not about elimination," Dr. Okoro explained to the bewildered Lyrian command staff. "It's about systemic disruption." Specialized nano-dispersal systems became their primary weapon. These weren't simple chemical agents or traditional biological countermeasures. Each dispersal unit was a complex adaptive system that could modify its molecular structure in real time, creating environmental conditions toxic to the Void Swarm while remaining harmless to the planet's native life forms. The ground team moved like a living ecosystem. Where traditional military units maintained rigid formations, the human teams functioned as a fluid, adaptive network. Communication was instantaneous, with each team member capable of making complex decisions that supported the collective objective. Lyrian observation teams watched in a state of combined terror and fascination. The humans treated the planetary invasion like a complex scientific expedition. Tactical response merged seamlessly with ecological restoration. Every action was simultaneously a defensive measure and an opportunity for scientific understanding. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, the team's tactical lead, approached planetary defense with the same calm demeanor he might use in a research laboratory. "We're not here to destroy," he told his team. "We're here to restore balance." Advanced sensor arrays mapped the void swarm's biological communication networks. Unlike most species that would rely on brute force, the human teams began systematically isolating and neutralizing communication pathways. Each disrupted network node was studied, analyzed, and used to develop more sophisticated countermeasures. The planetary surface became a living laboratory. Nano-adaptive systems created localized environmental shifts that confused and fragmented the void swarm's collective intelligence. Entire regions transformed from zones of potential consumption to areas of biological reset. Dr. Okoro's team discovered something extraordinary about the void swarm's biological infrastructure. The collective organism relied on intricate quantum communication networks that maintained its unified consciousness. By introducing specific molecular disruptions, they could create localized areas of cognitive isolation. "Think of it like creating mental firewalls," she explained to the Lyrian scientific attaché. "We're not destroying. We're fragmenting their collective intelligence." As hours passed, the Lyrian survivors began to understand something profound about humanity. This was not a rescue mission in the traditional sense. This was a comprehensive ecological intervention that treated the planetary invasion as a complex systems problem to be solved. The ground team worked with a calm efficiency that bordered on the miraculous. Where most species would show fear or aggression, these humans displayed a mixture of professional focus and scientific curiosity. Nexus Prime was not just being defended. It was being systematically restored. The humans brought something to the conflict that the Lyrian civilization had never witnessed. A complete absence of fear. Where most species would show terror, the human crews displayed a mixture of professional focus and what could only be described as mild irritation at the inconvenience of the invasion. Communication channels between the human fleet and Lyrian command became a study in psychological contrast. The Lyrians approached each interaction with a complex matrix of diplomatic protocols and emotional cascades. The humans responded with a direct, almost casual approach that defied every established galactic communication standard. Captain Aria Rodriguez's interactions with the Lyrian High Command became legendary. When asked about potential casualties and the immense risks of their mission, she responded with a matter-of-fact tone that sent tremors through the entire Lyrian communication network. "We're from Earth," she stated, her voice carrying the same tone one might use to discuss a routine maintenance schedule. "Our idea of a bad day involves volcanic eruptions, Category 5 hurricanes, and surviving in environments that would kill most species within minutes. This is just another Tuesday." The psychological impact was profound. The Lyrian observers had expected to see fear, uncertainty, and the typical emotional cascades that most species exhibited during high-stress encounters. Instead, they witnessed something entirely unexpected: complete operational calm. Human communication channels revealed something even more surprising. Amid the intense planetary defense and combat operations, crew members exchanged casual conversations. Technical discussions merged with personal anecdotes. Jokes were shared. Critical strategic decisions were made with the same emotional investment one might use to discuss meal preparations. Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's tactical briefings became a source of collective fascination for the Lyrian observation teams. Where most species would approach strategic planning with intense emotional investment, Chen treated the entire planetary defense like a complex puzzle to be solved. Void swarm communication networks show predictable quantum entanglement patterns, he would note, as if discussing a mildly interesting research project. We can introduce systematic disruptions here and here. The human psychological approach was fundamentally different from any known galactic civilization. Most species developed elaborate threat response mechanisms based on fear and defensive posturing. Humanity seemed to view challenges as opportunities for problem solving. Dr. Elena Okoro's synapsological analysis became a critical component of the mission. Her team didn't just study the void swarm's biological infrastructure, they analyzed its psychological communication patterns. Each interaction was an opportunity for understanding, for developing more sophisticated response mechanisms. Lyrian communication specialists discovered something profound about human psychology. Where most species would escalate conflict through emotional responses, humans approach challenges with a detached, almost clinical problem-solving methodology. They don't see threats, one Lyrian psychological analyst noted. They see complex systems waiting to be understood. The human fleet's psychological warfare was not about intimidation or traditional military posturing. It was about complete operational confidence. Every action, every communication carried an underlying message. This was not a struggle for survival, but a systematic process of problem resolution. When the Lyrian command staff expressed concerns about the mission's complexity, Captain Rodriguez's response became a moment of collective revelation. "Complexity is just an invitation to find a better solution," she said, her voice carrying a calm that bordered on philosophical acceptance. The Void Swarm had encountered numerous civilizations, but it had never encountered a species that viewed existential threats as nothing more than interesting challenges to be solved. As the campaign progressed, the Lyrian observers realized the humans were doing far more than simply fighting. They were learning, adapting, and improving their technologies with a speed that defied conventional understanding of technological development. Each Void Swarm attack became an opportunity for technological advancement. What would have taken most species decades of research was being developed and implemented within hours. The human ships began to integrate captured Void Swarm biomechanical components into their own systems, creating hybrid technologies that challenged every known galactic technological paradigm. Dr. Elena Okoro's research team operated with a methodology that was part scientific expedition, part technological warfare. Their portable laboratories were marvels of adaptive engineering, capable of analyzing, understanding, and potentially replicating alien technological components faster than the Void Swarm could modify its own infrastructure. Technology is just another form of communication, Dr. Okoro would explain to her bewildered Lyrian counterparts. Every system has a language. We're simply learning to translate. The human approach to technological integration was fundamentally different from other galactic civilizations. Most species develop technologies with specific, limited purposes and rigid design parameters. Humanity created adaptive systems that could transform themselves in real time, treating technological components as living, evolving entities. Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's tactical team demonstrated this approach most dramatically. Captured Void Swarm communication nodes were not simply studied, they were actively repurposed. Quantum communication networks that had previously been weapons of assimilation were transformed into complex adaptive defense systems. Lyrian technological archives struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. Traditional scientific observation protocols became obsolete. The humans weren't just analyzing technology. They were engaging in a form of technological dialogue that blurred the lines between research, adaptation, and combat. Portable nanofabrication units became the primary technological interface. These were not simple manufacturing systems, but complex adaptive networks that could redesign themselves moment by moment. A captured biomechanical component could be analyzed, understood, and potentially integrated into human technological systems within minutes. We're not reverse engineering, Dr. Okoro explained during a briefing. We're engaging in a form of technological conversation. Each component tells a story. We're learning to listen. The human ships began to evolve in real time. Defensive systems incorporated biomechanical components from the Void Swarm. Energy distribution networks became more efficient. Quantum communication interfaces became more sophisticated. What had started as a defensive operation was transforming into the most comprehensive technological research expedition in galactic history. Captain Aria Rodriguez viewed this process with a calm detachment that both fascinated and terrified the Lyrian observation teams. Where most commanders would be focused solely on combat effectiveness, she treated each technological adaptation as an opportunity for broader understanding. Every challenge is an invitation to grow, she would often say, watching as her ship's systems continued to evolve and adapt. The most profound revelation came from the way human technologies approached problem-solving. Most galactic civilizations developed technologies with fixed purposes and limited adaptability. Humanity created living technological ecosystems that could transform themselves in response to new information. Lyrian communication specialists discovered something extraordinary. The human technological approach was less about controlling technology and more about developing a symbiotic relationship with it. Each technological system was treated as a potential partner in problem-solving, not a simple tool to be used and discarded. As the campaign continued, it became clear that the humans were doing something unprecedented. They weren't just fighting the Void Swarm. They were learning from it, growing through the encounter, transforming a potential extinction-level threat into an opportunity for technological and scientific advancement. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were rewriting the fundamental rules of technological engagement. The final stages of the conflict were less a traditional military engagement and more a comprehensive systems intervention. Humanity didn't just defeat the Void Swarm, they systematically dismantled its ability to function as a collective species. Small human strike teams, equipped with adaptive technologies developed during the campaign, began infiltrating key Void Swarm strategic points. These were not traditional military units, but hybrid teams of researchers, tactical specialists, and adaptive technology experts who moved with a fluidity that defied conventional understanding of combat operations. Dr. Elena Okoro led the primary infiltration team, her approach combining scientific curiosity with tactical precision. Where most species would approach such a mission with weapons and aggressive intent, her team carried an arsenal of adaptive technological systems designed to fundamentally alter the Void Swarm's communication and collective intelligence infrastructure. "We're not here to destroy," she explained to her team. "We're here to reset." The infiltration strategy was unlike any military operation in galactic history. Each team member was a specialist in multiple disciplines. Quantum communication experts worked alongside ecological engineers. Xenobiologists collaborated with adaptive technology designers. Their goal was not simple destruction, but comprehensive systemic disruption. Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen's tactical analysis had revealed the Void Swarm's critical vulnerability. The collective organism relied on an intricate quantum communication network that maintained its unified consciousness. By introducing targeted disruptions, they could fragment the entire collective intelligence. Portable quantum interference devices became their primary weapon. These were not simple jamming tools but complex adaptive systems that could analyze and modify quantum communication pathways in real time. Each device was essentially a living technological organism, capable of learning and adapting moment by moment. The strike teams moved through the Void Swarm's infrastructure like a surgical intervention. Where traditional military operations would use brute force, these teams performed a precise, almost delicate technological dismantling. They didn't just disable systems, they understood them, learned from them, and ultimately transformed them. Captain Aria Rodriguez monitored the operation from the fleet's command center, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the complex operation unfolding. To her, this was simply another problem to be solved, complex, but not insurmountable. Quantum disruption protocols at 92% efficiency, her AI assistant reported. The bridge crew responded with minimal acknowledgement, as if discussing a routine maintenance check. The Lyrian observation teams watched in a state of collective disbelief. What they witnessed was not a traditional military engagement, but a comprehensive systems intervention. The humans were not just fighting. They were fundamentally restructuring the Void Swarm's entire collective intelligence. Dr. Okoro's team discovered something extraordinary about the Void Swarm's biological infrastructure. The collective organism's strength was also its greatest weakness. Its unified communication network, which allowed rapid adaptation and collective intelligence, could be systematically fragmented through precise quantum interference. Small molecular-level interventions began to show remarkable results. Individual Void Swarm components started to lose their collective connection. What had been a unified, terrifying collective intelligence began to fragment into isolated, non-communicative biological units. "It's like performing surgery on a living network," Dr. Okoro explained to her bewildered Lyrian counterparts. "We're not destroying. We're helping it find a new form of existence." As the operation progressed, it became clear that humanity's approach was fundamentally different from any known galactic civilization. Where most species would seek total elimination, humans sought understanding and transformation. The Void Swarm had encountered numerous civilizations, but it had never encountered a species that could turn an existential threat into an opportunity for comprehensive systems intervention. The tide was turning, and nothing would ever be the same. In the aftermath of the conflict, the Galactic Concordance found itself facing a profound reconceptualization of emerging species. Humanity had not just survived an encounter with the Void Swarm. They had fundamentally altered the existing interstellar power dynamics without resorting to the brutal conquest methods typical of advanced civilizations. Ambassador Krillak's report to the Confederacy High Council became a moment of collective existential reflection. The species they had once considered barely worthy of diplomatic acknowledgement had just saved an entire colony world with what seemed like minimal effort. "We are witnessing something unprecedented," Krillak explained to the stunned council members. "Humanity is not just another spacefaring civilization. They are what we have feared, and what we must now respect." The human approach to the entire conflict defied every established galactic protocol. Where most species would have demanded extensive diplomatic recognition or resource compensation, the human fleet prepared to depart with a casual efficiency that was both infuriating and deeply impressive. Dr. Elena Okoro's final briefing to the Lyrian scientific community became a watershed moment in galactic understanding. Her presentation was not a traditional military debrief, but a comprehensive systems analysis that treated the entire conflict as a complex research expedition. "We don't seek to conquer," she explained, her voice carrying a calm that bordered on philosophical acceptance. "We seek to understand, to adapt, and to grow. Our strength lies not in our weapons, but in our ability to transform challenges into opportunities." The human fleet left behind more than just a rescued planet. Advanced ecological restoration systems and comprehensive defense protocols were integrated into Nexus Prime's infrastructure. These were not simple technological gifts, but adaptive systems that could continue to evolve and respond to potential future threats. Captain Aria Rodriguez's final communication with the Lyrian command was characteristically direct. "Maintain your ecological diversity," she advised. "Develop adaptive response systems. Learn from every challenge." The Lyrian survivors began to understand something profound about humanity. This was not a rescue mission in the traditional sense. This was a comprehensive intervention that treated planetary defense as a complex systems problem to be solved. Technological analysis of the human adaptive systems revealed something extraordinary. Where most civilizations developed fixed-purpose technologies, humanity created living technological ecosystems that could transform themselves in response to new information. The most surprising element was the humans' apparent lack of interest in traditional galactic political recognition. They had saved an entire colony world and were preparing to depart with the same casual efficiency they might use to complete a routine research expedition. "We're not here to be heroes," Lieutenant Commander Jack Chen remarked during the final system diagnostic. "We're here to solve problems, As human exploration vessels began charting new regions of space, other galactic civilizations watched, no longer with condescension, but with a mixture of respect and careful anticipation. The Void Swarm had encountered numerous civilizations, but it had never encountered a species like humanity, a civilization that viewed existential challenges as opportunities for growth, understanding, and comprehensive systems intervention. Dr. Okoro's final observation captured the essence of the encounter. Every challenge is an invitation to understand something new about ourselves and the universe around us. The human story became a beacon of hope and a warning to those who would underestimate an emerging civilization's potential. The galaxy would never view humanity the same way again.